Welcome back, Chasin Tails fans, for another episode of Chasin Tails Podcast, episode 30. As you guys can see, we are not live this week, and we do apologize for that. With the holiday season approaching for people all across the country, we tend to get a little busy, spend time with family, get race boats ready. You know how it goes. So this week, we're going to do things a little bit differently. We're going to have a little Hydro 101 for you. Our main topics that we're going to be covering, really looking down at what we've talked about before and the different start procedures, some of the penalties associated along with the start procedures, and just really the finite technicalities of boat racing. Obviously, our sport has been around a very long time, and as we've seen in recent years, especially in leagues like H1, some of those rules can be outdated, some can be changed. Some are still pretty good. So yeah, let's roll right into it. Start procedures. I think starting off, the most clear cut, in my opinion, and a couple other people's opinions, the most clear cut starting procedure is assigned lanes clock start. How HRL does it. Basically, how it starts. All the drivers in the class. I'm not sure beginning of the season how it starts. I don't know if it's previous year's points or just kind of luck of the draw, but moving forward in the season, it's all based off points. Your first place boat typically will start leading in lane one. After the second heat, they'll get moved outside. The outside boat gets inside, and pretty much just each boat out to end. Those middle boats kind of do get a short end of the stick, never get in that inside or outside lane. But I'll be honest, over the 2-3 years I've had driving and riding in boats, those middle lanes can be pretty good. Those outside guys have a lot more to deal with. They can hit buoys, just deal with water, get pushed out a lot more, pushed in a lot more, held tight to the pin. Just brings another level to the driving that you have to deal with. Now, with that being said, it does make it so much clearer and easier. And in the past years, we have seen it does very much so open up to a lot more competitive and accurate starts. A big issue recently you've been seeing in APBA, for example, where they run a fighting for lane format. Boats will just go out and they get so in their head and caught up for fighting for lanes that they end up beating 10 to 15 seconds behind the start, or they jump the gun, and it's just not good for racing. But there are some drivers, and a very large majority of drivers, that are very good at fighting for lanes. Bobby and Brandon, for example, we'll talk about it later on in this episode, but they, back in the day in APBA, it was insane some of the stuff they would do. They talked about it with fighting for lanes against Jeff Bernard. It all came down to who was the furthest over on the dock. Or at Hampton, who was the furthest down the seawall so they could get on the course first, get in one, and park. But reeling in from fighting for lanes, we'll start off with the HRL format. Now, I have here, let me pull up my screen share. I have a video of, I believe, the Jersey Speed Skiffs in Bahornwa 2023. This one it was a close video, popped up. I saw it, and Jersey Speed Skiffs are a great class to show starts. They can be as crazy as they can be. They can be as clean as they can be. They're very quick, accelerating boats. So I know there's times when I was riding with Billy that we would be 5 seconds off the turn and we would hit it and we would still be there right on the gun. Or as Mr. Billy would like to tell me to warn little Billy, sometimes we would jump the gun. Not too often, though. But here we go, watching the Bahornwa 2023 HRL Jersey Speed Skiff final start. So as you can see here, you got all the boats lined up, and they're all going about the same speed. No one's up close fighting each other, pushing each other out. And as you can see, every single boat is within 1, 2, 3 seconds of the countdown, I got to say there's not much arguing you can do there. That is about as close of a start as you can really get, especially with some of the water conditions and just the boats that we drive. A lot of them are still carbureted, have a hard time getting going to get loaded up. And just, I mean, obviously here you're racing up in Bullhornwall. There's races like Tonawanda and some river courses that can be pretty unforgiving to your boat when you come from a fairly slow state to going full bore. So it really does come down to kind of pre-guessing it and getting your timing marks and just truly trusting them. That was the biggest thing I think me and Kyle ran into when we first started racing was we had the background of taking timing marks from Hydro Sim and watching racing our whole life, but something about trusting your timing mark is a whole nother game. It's harder than actually hitting the start. But so yeah, that was the basic rundown of assigned lanes for HRL. There's really not a crazy amount to it. While we're on the topic of HRL starts, though, there is one rule that I actually wasn't aware of this year. Or yeah, I didn't race an HRL last year, but this year in HRL, I learned about the rule. If you're, I don't know the exact amount of time. I want to say it's either 5 to 10 seconds. I could be totally off, and I do apologize for that. But if you are, I believe, anywhere from 5 to 10 seconds late to the start, you will get a penalty. I don't know if that's a time penalty or if you get disqualified or what. Someone can definitely answer that, and I'll make sure to bring it up in a later episode, maybe when I have the rule book and human calculators with us to bring that knowledge out. But so yeah, that's one really cool thing that HRL does to kind of push us drivers to really be there at the start. I mean, you've seen it in a lot of races where boats are 10 to a minute late to the start, and it totally kills the race, especially for the fans, and they just don't know what's going on. I mean, us as racers and fans of racing for years sometimes look out at a course. We have no idea what they're doing, if they're even racing or not. So I don't know how we can expect our fans to also know what's going on when we can't even keep our boats on the same side of the course at the same time. So that's obviously something us as drivers need to work on. And I think HRL putting that implementation into effect to really crack down on us to get us there at the starts to really help the show is an awesome thing. So on the other side of starts, the more common one you'll see for us is the APBA assigned lanes or unassigned lanes, fighting for lanes clock start. Now it's the same as HRL. We have a 5-minute warm-up period. The one difference in the warm-up periods between HRL and APBA, they give you a countdown from 1 to the 5, which is basically either across the radio or usually just have a person with a bullhorn also, and they'll yell to you 1 to the 5. That means you have 1 minute to drop your lid, turn on your electronics, do those last double checks, and they'll count down, and that's when you start your 5-minute clock. Because APBA does not have a synced clock for every region. I believe Region 4 now has the AccuClock format, but it is not fully APBA yet. So we do still have to manually start our clocks, and that can come into effect because how fast I push a button is probably different than how fast my brother pushes a button. So you got to kind of get used to your equipment and got to trust it and know it works versus HRL where you don't get that 1 minute countdown. Once they see all the drivers are in the boat, they're going. They say 2.5 stocks, go. And you better be ready because you got that 5 minutes, and those 5 minutes can be crucial. Even in HRL where you're not fighting for lanes, just getting the feel for the boat, knowing any changes you made are going to work, getting those timing marks, those all 5 minutes can truly be crucial. Some people don't leave for a couple minutes. That's driver choice. I like to get out there, establish my presence on the course, feel the boat out, just get ready. There's no better way to get you focused for a race than be going 90 mile an hour down the straight or 100 something down the straight. So obviously, we looked at the assigned lane. So now here is a clip from 2021, actually, of me and Billy Soul down in Lakeland, Florida for the Orange Cup Regatta. Now, this was a Jersey Speed Skiff heat, obviously fighting for lanes. We just crossed the 45-minute pin, so now everyone is going, and you're going to see everyone moving around inches from each other. You kind of just saw Tom Paccardooney stick his nose up in there and move over. I'm sure he's going to top over and take lane one. So as you can see in APBA with this fighting for lanes, it does make it a bit more hectic. You got boats trying to move around, and all it takes is 4 boat lengths in APBA. And that is all, as bad as this sounds, it is all visual and interpretation. If I am looking back and I see 4 boat lengths, in my opinion, I'm telling my driver to move over. So one thing to point out there, as you saw in that clip, was forget the number, 712, I think, the Batula. He was coming up for the start, looked like he was on a great run, had to back out. And as you can see, he had to back out, and now he's leading into the first turn with 2 boats ahead of him. He had like almost a rooster tail length ahead of them, but just losing that little bit of momentum before the start can kill you. Obviously, I can talk about this heat a little bit better than the HRL one. I was in the boat for this. That was a hectic start. Something about it, just in APBA, when you're running down the skiffs especially, and you get 4 or 5 of them going up, turning into that turn before the start, and you don't know if someone's going to come over because they think they have 4. As we saw in Lake Pacon, those boats can be a little hectic. You never know if someone like Brandon's just going to hook in front of you and cause something like that. So it does add just a lot more skill and awareness from the driver and riders, because you gotta be aware of what the other drivers are doing, where they are. You never know if one's behind you, if they can sneak up inside. I know that got us in Hampton a couple years ago. Max Awancio, great move by him, hop behind us. I will totally admit my fault. I should have been looking as the rider, and he got his nose up right next to us on the inside, and Reggie ended up getting a penalty. We weren't aware he was there, and took his lane. And that, you got to be aware be watching for that stuff, because drivers, it's another thing, is no one will talk about it that much, but you can get people to draw penalties. And that's not the way you want to race. But when it comes down to it, like Max, he takes that risky move. Sometimes we got to take a risky move to block it. So it all comes down to racing. And there's no one person that can truly answer the question of what starting procedure is better, because you've seen incidents in both. I think you have seen more incidents in APBA. Obviously, that start procedure has been around longer than I have. HRL hasn't been around that long. They've gotten newer over the past 10, 20, 15 years. I don't know, 20-something years old, and it's about that long. So obviously, there's more data with the APBA start format, and I think some people can be pretty quick to judge on it. I know, just coming from Bob, Brandon, Kyle, my family in general, they typically do lean towards the assigned lanes format. It's cleaner, can typically result in more boat starts being all right there. But I will say, there's no better races to watch. You see it in the Unlimiteds. You see it down in APBA. You get the West Coast guys coming out to Hampton, down to Lakeland, like you saw in that clip. It makes for some racing. And it can make for full-on racing, because in HRL, you get the 5 laps. That's pretty much the race. I mean, no one's really jockeying before the start. So those 5 laps are the race. What you are going to do to win that race happens in those 5 laps. Versus APBA. I recall a story, and I think I brought it up already, was Jeff Bernard, Brandon, Bob, or just two of them, I don't know exactly, but we saw it many times over the years with many different drivers. They are to the cranes first. They're telling the crane operator, extend the boom out all the way. I need to be all the way over there. See people swimming boats out to get it further down. The race in APBA starts on the trailer. It starts when you get in on the weekend and you park your boat. You want to be in the best spot to get on that course. Obviously, not for every class. I don't know if the larger classes do run any sort of water pump. I know they can't typically park like 2.5s do in our class with our water pumps, but 2.5s especially. I mean, I remember my first year race in Cedars Creek, Ohio. I don't remember if it was Jeff or Corey driving for Jeff at the time, but he got out on that course at about 4 minutes and 45 seconds, and he was parked in the exit of turn 2, not even the entrance where I think most sane people would park, the exit. And he got lane 1. He had lane 1 qualifier, final, qualifier, final. You were not getting it from him unless you got out on that course before him. And every single time you saw his boat all the way down. Fastest to get on gets lane 1. Now, obviously, it does open up more fun after that, too. We have the 45-second pin. That is a little bit of a rule that a lot of people aren't aware of. I'll see if I can do my best to find a view in HydroSim of the course, and I will do my best to explain just what the commonly referred to 45-second pin or 1 minute pin rule actually is. So with APBA having the 5 minutes warm up and the fighting for lanes, there is some things set into place to, like HRL, to kind of help us reel in our racing and just really get our drivers closer together on starts. So if you look here, we're in Madison, Indiana. Beep Beep's house is somewhere up there, I'm sure. I've always wanted to go over there and watch the race, maybe one year. But so as you're doing your 5 minute warm up period, you're driving round and around, you'll be coming around here. And now somewhere on the backstretch, and it is predetermined at every single race site where this buoy is or whatever, for purposes today, we will call this buoy set right here the 1 minute pin. So as you're coming around the course, you're coming about down to a minute. This line right here, under, I believe, a minute 30 or a minute, 2 minutes, you are not allowed to cross this line until you are under 1 minute before the start. So drivers will come around the course. They'll be coming around here, and there'll be about a minute, 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And if you jump over that buoy line before the clock hits the predetermined time of typically either a minute, 45 seconds, or 30 seconds, you will receive a 1 minute penalty. Now, a 1 minute penalty in boat racing with courses that are anywhere from 30 to a minute and a half lap times, that's just a killer. A minute penalty is you ain't coming back from. So that is one buoy you definitely don't want to jump. So after the 45-second or minute pin, you'll hear me call it many different things, but after that, you're going to be running up to here, and you'll be fighting for lanes still. APBA's rule is your lane is not established until typically the exit buoy. So all 4 minutes down till we get to the 1 minute pin and coming down all the way to the exit pin before the start. If you have your 4 boat lengths and you are clear, you are allowed to change lanes. And there is no rule in APBA such as in HRL where you're limited to amount of lanes. for APBA, if I want to come off of this exit pin and I have 4 boat lengths on the nearest boat, I could drive straight across here and then straight across here, straight across here, straight across here. As long as I stay in bounds, I can change lanes as far as I want. Now, HRL is a tad bit different. HRL follows the rule of, I believe, 2 lanes per lap. I could be totally wrong, and I do apologize. I probably should have been more prepared for this video, but brain cells don't always line up. So, I believe it is 2 lanes every lap, and it does just really limit people pushing other boats out really far or truly making the course dangerous for other drivers. When there's a diagonal line of wake going across the course, it can make our boats handle in some very weird ways and make them do some very unpredictable and dangerous things. So I do agree with them that is probably a wise rule to have into place. I'm not saying it's needed. APBA has done just fine without it, and I'm sure they will continue to. Now there's a lot of speculation, and like I said earlier, I don't think there's a single person in this world of boat racing or any motorsport that could tell us what is the true best starting procedure. Because here are 2 starting procedures that we talked about, and I will talk about 1 or 2 more very uncommon in the world of inboard hydroplane racing. One that I have been a part of, and I think hopefully some other drivers have been a part of, was flag starts. This is a little bit older of a start procedure. Back in 21, actually at that Orange Cup race I showed you, we were involved in one. The digital clock broke, unable to get it working. So in the event of that happening, their backup procedure is to use a flag start. Now, in order for a flag start, I don't believe there's a set amount of time for warm-up versus our clock starts. We have 5 minutes. The clock starts, it counts down, we got that time. Flag starts, all boats will go on the course. In our case, there was the skiffs. We all went around, trolled around for a couple, did timing marks, didn't technically need them, but just to get a feel for how fast the boat's accelerating, all that stuff. And then we had, in this case, we had a individual on the start-finish line with a flag. And once he determined that I believe there's like 7 or 8 of us, 8 boats lined up together close enough to where one would not have an overwhelming advantage over the other, he dropped the flag and everyone goes. Now, I believe this is the same exact roughly starting procedure that they use down in New Zealand for the Hydro Thunder league down there. They do it a little bit differently, and I love this format. It looks cool. It could bring more fans to it, just get a chance to ride in this boat. I don't know if there would be an insurance problem with that. I know that's why we can't do ride-alongs anymore for flag runs, but they have a boat on the interior of the course, and as the boats line up, they will have to follow that flag boat, and that boat will be running at full bore, and obviously it's being chased by Grand Prix hydroplanes, so it's a little bit slower than the boats. So it's running at full bore until the moment it deems that they are all lined up properly, and he drops the flag, and that's when all the boats will line up and step on the gas and run it to the first turn. Obviously, this typically does take place on the straightaways. I don't know if there's any rules in place to not have a race start in a turn, because that boat does follow the whole inside of the course. It'd be a good question for the Luptons, maybe. It'd be an interesting thought, because, at least for me, I think that would be a weird way to start a race, having boats in the turn. So the only other true start format I can think of that I have seen used in boat racing. Now, I have not seen this in inboards personally. Someone could, maybe if someone wants to comment on this video afterwards and tell me about a time that I don't know about, but the Le Mans start. Obviously, if you've ever watched the 24-hour Le Mans or any of those style races back in the day, they did a starting format where the drivers would have to run to their cars, get in the car, and go. That stopped for safety reasons, seat belts, double checks, everything. People running across the road. It was pretty unsafe. Now, boat racing, I have seen this done. I know the Formula tunnel boats, they do a Le Mans style start, kind of. Now, obviously, the drivers aren't running to get in the boats, but all the boats line up at the dock, and they are in the boat ready to go. And I believe there's a boat out on the course with a flag or some sort of light sequencing. And the moment they get the signal, all those boats rip off the dock. There's no lane. I don't think there's a thought of lanes in those kind of racing. It's insane to watch. I don't know how they do it, but that is another format of start procedure I have seen. I'm not sure if it would be totally feasible for the world of inboard hydroplane racing. It would be fairly interesting to see, though. 6 unlimited, see who can get fired up fastest on the course and going. I know we've done that in sim once. We did a GP versus unlimited at San Diego, and all the boats had to start up and go. And actually, unlimited with the whole firing up of the turbine actually still won. So, but yeah, that's the generic rundown for starting procedures. I was actually trying to think earlier of what other main rules would be good to talk about and explain. And really, the only ones I could think of were buoy related and overlap. So I do have one more video I'm going to show. This is a clip of 2024 Beauharnois, if I get the right video, with none other than the famous Derek Anderson. Now, you can see Derek head in with a full head of steam, make it past one buoy, but what do you know? He picks up, not the second, but picks up that third buoy and became what we know as a buoy hunter. Now, with hitting a buoy does come some repercussion. And I believe there's different repercussions. I have not hit a buoy in HRL, so I don't know if they charge cost of buoy, but in APBA, the cost of the buoy does go to the owner or driver who hits the buoy. I can recall to the Battle of the Brothers, Bobby Kennedy picked up 2 buoys for a charge of $300. Luckily, the owner, Greg Barker, was nice enough to pick up that charge for him, although I believe it should always be the driver's responsibility, and I will stand by that. The day I hit a buoy, fully hit a buoy, and take the charge. So yeah, in APBA, you get a little bit more of an incentive not to hit it. That $250 cost, actually, it could be anywhere from $150 to $300. I've seen. I think actually at one course it was $5 because there was a record course and they didn't want to reset the course. So I don't blame them. It's hard work. And the other side, HRL, I don't think they do cost of buoy. I could be 150% wrong again. So please, if someone does know the answer to that, drop it down in the comments. We'll make sure to talk about it on next week's episode. But with them, and same as APBA, when you do hit a buoy, you do get a 1 minute penalty. So just the same as jumping the gun or jumping the 1 minute pin, you get a 1 minute penalty, or it could be a lap in. No, it's 1 minute. 1 minute penalty in both leagues. And that's killer. I mean, one full minute of racing when our heats are around 5 to 6 minutes, that's game over for you. So I think the overall message to take away from this episode, if you take anything, stay away from the buoys. Don't miss buoys because you got to go around the course. That's another one. If you do miss a buoy, you're able to pick up a buoy. If not, if it's specifically stated in the rules prior to the race, you just get a 1 minute penalty. There are some courses they don't like drivers stopping, picking up a buoy in the turn, going in the infield. That's where a lot of the safety crew is kept during the races to keep them safe and to further the safety of them. We do not like to have boats cutting in the course and going near them. So stay away from buoys. Go around your buoys. Don't jump the gun. Fighting for lanes can be a lot of fun, can be a little hectic. Assigned lanes can be super clean, super competitive. And I think there's a lot to talk about. I think there's some changes that can happen to our start procedures. I think some of them work great. I think some aspects of them work great. They work at great certain places. We'd love to hear what you guys think. If you have any thoughts, comments, concerns of this video, or just want to share your opinion, drop a comment down below. But yeah, that will be it for this episode of Hydro 101. Make sure to drop a follow, like, comment, and share. And we will see you back next week for episode 31. Thank you and have a good one.